Thank you for tuning in to the last session of Virtual Conservation Live. I am Ben. I think all of our fourth graders on the Zoom call remember Miss Christopher.
Hello, everybody.
Before we turn it over to our conservation officer, a couple of housekeeping notes. Remember, the Q&A box is only for questions for our presenter. Please don't use that for chatting with your buddies. We are broadcasting live on Zoom for our fourth graders, but we're also broadcasting on Facebook Live for public audiences. This event is intended to take the place of our live in-person place-based conservation field day event that we hold with the fourth graders. And we have since moved it online. So thank you all for joining us. Without further ado, Officer Tholen, please take it away.
All right. Well, thank you very much. My name is Matt Tholen. I work for the Department of Natural Resources Law Enforcement Division. As you can see, I have a badge as well as I have a gun and all this stuff on my Batman belt. I'm a cop just like any other cop. But sometimes we always associate different color uniforms with different responsibilities or even mission statements. And one of our main responsibilities is fish and wildlife. With the fish comes water. So today we're here to talk about boat safety as well as what you should do in a water emergency if something does happen. So a little bit about the Division of Fish or Division of Law Enforcement and what we do. We do two different things for protect. And one is we're out in the waters, we're patrolling. We make sure everybody's safe doing what they're supposed to do by following the rules, laws, and regulations. The second part is by education. We do a boater education class that is currently some people can do them online, but we also do them in person in certain locations throughout the state of Indiana. So, but today we're going to do a real short gist of what about water safety and a boat safety. So, first thing we're going to talk about is boating safety. The one most important piece about boat safety is life jackets. Can't stress enough the importance of life jackets. Okay, this first one is back in the day, they used to have life jackets that look like this, and they're still around, and that's why I have these two to show off. But this is the old orange horse collar. Okay, well, how this works is the first one goes over your head, and then you tie it around your waist. Well, everybody came and said, boy, that's pretty ugly, and it might not make my suntan look so good. So technology came up with these life jackets, which is the normal ones you'll see now. Most people wear this type of life jacket. Very, very, very important. Each life jacket in the boat must fit each individual person. So if you are a pretty small person, and this is an adult large life jacket, you need to have a small life jacket or a youth life jacket that fits you. Okay. Now the question's always brought up, do you have to wear your life jacket? I always tell the child or whoever's asking, it's up to the parent. By law, nothing says that you have to wear your life jacket on waters of in-state. Now, if you're on concurrent jurisdictions such as Lake Michigan or the Ohio River, there is a law that says you have to wear a life jacket for certain ages, under a certain age. But for our lakes and rivers and streams around here, Lake Schaefer, Lake Freeman, Wildcat Creek, any places that you go around here, it is not required. Do we require it? We as officers, when we're out patrolling, we wear our life jackets. And I'll show you one of ours here shortly. But this is the normal one that everybody wears. The most important thing is, it's just like a seat belt. We all have seat belts in our vehicles, and the only way they work is if you buckle your seat belt. Well, the life jacket does the same thing. When you put it on, just because you have it on, you must buckle it also. And the reasoning is, if you don't buckle it and you fall out of the boat, you can easily slip through the arms or even slip through the bottom and go straight to the bottom of the river, water, or stream. So it's very, very important that you actually buckle your life jacket. Okay? So one of the other specialty life jackets we have that we use, this is called a river rescue life jacket. As you can see, it's very, very bulky. Got a lot more foam padding in it, and this is used only in river rescue situations. If there's a raging water, there's flow that's won't keep us afloat, plus with all our gear that we wear, vests or our belts, this will keep us afloat. The other neat thing it has is also a ring on the back. If by chance we have to go out in the water and rescue somebody, then we could be tied off on that and pulled back in. So this is a river rescue jacket. You don't see very many people wear these on Lake Freeman, Lake Schaefer. They are very big and they're hot throughout the summer. Yes,
Can I throw a question at you?
you sure can.
We have someone asking, what is the minimum age that has to wear a life jacket? Is there a minimum age, or should all ages probably wear a life jacket?
We as officers, we recommend all people wear life jackets, but there is no law that says you have to wear a life jacket. Doesn't matter what age. Now, I know in my boat, whenever I'm patrolling or whenever I'm pleasure boating on my own time, we have a rule, anybody under the age 18, when the boat's moving or the big motor's going, everybody's wearing their life jacket. So it's up to the person in charge of the boat or a parent or guardian to make that determination.
Okay, thank you.
Now, this life jacket is one of our life jackets. As you can see, it doesn't look like one of these big, bulky life jackets, but in here, this is an inflatable life jacket. So the way we wear it, and this is one of our patrol jackets, it says police on it. But when we wear it, we just put it on. But it's very important, just like the other ones, that you need to buckle it. Okay. Once it's buckled, we're ready to go. As you can see, it's lightweight. It just doesn't, you don't even know it's there. But what happens is, if we fall out of the boat, by chance we hit a stump, a log, maybe another boat hits us, and we fall out, this thing right here will tell us in pressure underneath the water, it will actually expand and it'll blow up to be about this big. Okay. The thing about life jackets is, don't really worry about your feet or your legs going under the water. It's to keep your head above the water. So that's what this does. It actually pulls a big pillow behind your head and it keeps your head above water. By chance you get knocked out, you can still have your head above the water with these life jackets on. Okay. The other thing, it does have a pull tab. If we know we're getting ready to jump in the water and we have to save somebody, we can pull it and just jump in and we'll actually float too. But as you can see, it's very comfortable. It's almost too comfortable to where I know myself and other officers have left the water to go get lunch, and we've been sitting in Subway's drive-through, and we still had our life jackets on. We totally forget we have it on. So these are some of the life jackets. And again, it's not a requirement, but it is. We actually request that everybody wears one. Okay. The other thing about life jackets is, A, they must fit each individual person. But then the thing also, it must say U.S. Coast Guard approved. There are life jackets now out in retail stores that are saying they're life jackets, but they're not U.S. Coast Guard approved. By law, they must have a stamp somewhere on them that actually says it. And the second part of that is they must be accessible somewhere in the boat. And when we say accessible, that doesn't mean it has to, it has to be out and about, but it can be in a container, but you have to be able to grab it fast just in case there's an accident. So accessible means that the container can't be locked. Okay. So that's life jackets. Very, very important. The second thing about life jackets or PFDs is any boat over 16 foot in length must have a Type 4 throwable. And this is a Type 4 throwable cushion. Okay. So you can see right there, it says U.S. Coast Guard approved. And it has straps. And what people say when I say, hey, put this on, this is not a wearable life jacket. But some people will actually take these straps and they'll actually put it over their shoulders like this. Well, the bad thing is when you're floating, your head, this is floating on top of the water, your head is actually under the water. So what you want to do is you want to put these straps on the front. If anybody throws them to them, you need a rescue, put them on the front. You hold on to it just like this. This way, your head's above the water, you're still breathing, you're able to kick your legs and maybe do a self-rescue. So this is a Type 4 throwable. Any boat over 16 foot in length must have them. But we recommend them for canoes, kayaks, or any other boating that you do is to have one just in case. If somebody's going downstream and you see them, you might be able to throw this to them and save their life. Okay. This doesn't count as a wearable. This counts just as a throwable.
Okay. We're getting a couple of questions for you, so I'll throw some of those at you. Number one, is the jacket that you have on right now something you use for just emergencies, or that's the one you wear all the time when you're on the water?
This is the patrol jacket. This is one we wear all the time, whether it's a canoe, kayak, pleasure boating. This is the one we always wear. And they do make them without the badge. They do make them without the police on the back. And they're a little more expensive, but I always say, for the cost of a life jacket, is it worth your life? It is. Sure. So $150 or to save your life, yeah, it's well worth it.
Sure. And have you known of any downsides of wearing a life jacket, or is it dangerous to wear a life jacket that doesn't fit you right? Can you suffocate or accidental drown or anything like that?
I've never heard of really an accidental drowning. Now, the orange ones that we used to wear, the horse collar ones, people used to claim that they used to choke them around in the neck a little bit, but not to the point where it chokes them out. It's just more uncomfortable than it is anything. And you know, wearing a big rescue jacket or even some of these, sometimes you get a little rash under the armpits if you wear them quite often and you don't take precaution using sunscreen. But besides that, there's nothing that I know of that says people drown just because they're wearing a life jacket.
Okay, and then I got one more just of my own curiosity. I know that life jackets are important all year round. There's no time when a life jacket, if you're on the water or near the water, isn't important. But are there certain seasons or weather conditions where it's essential to have a life jacket either on or very close to you? Is it more dangerous at different times?
Oh, life jackets are always, anytime we're close to the water, whether we're performing the water rescue or we're one of the teammates that are part of the water rescue program, if we're working on the ropes, even on the shore, we're requested or required to even wear a life jacket. We're not even in the water, but we're going to wear it just in case. You never know what happens. But then seasonal wise, during ice fishing season, we request the people that are going out on the lakes, the frozen lakes, the rivers and ponds, to actually wear a life jacket too, because you never know how thick the ice is. You may slip, fall, you may even go farther into the water. That life jacket could keep you above the water to where somebody could come and rescue you. So if you're not wearing a life jacket during ice fishing season, it might take a couple minutes, but if you're not wearing a life jacket, worst case scenario, you could go to the bottom and, you know, hypothermia, a lot of things could happen. So we always recommend the ice fishermen to wear their life jackets too.
Great.
A quick question. Are the orange ones U.S. Coast Guard approved?
They are, and stamped on the side. As you can see, this is a fairly new one. There's no sun tag to it, but it does say U.S. Coast Guard approved. And this one also says adult universal. So any adult over the age of 17, I believe, and it says chest size, but each individual person, whether it's a child or whether it's an adult, you know, has to have a life jacket on board that fits each individual person.
All right, go ahead. That's all we have right now.
Okay, right now. So going continuation with boating safety, besides the life jacket, which is the most important part, is when you're swimming around a boat, it's very important to stay away from one of the places. And well, there's two places I would stay away from when you're swimming, but the most important one that I would not come close to swimming by is in the back. And it's pretty much obvious, this big black thing, this motor, and on the bottom of the motor, you can see that prop. If anybody's happened to sit in the driver's seat and they just turn the key, that prop actually starts turning. If you're back here and you're swimming, you're having a good time, they don't pay attention what they're doing up there, hit the key, next thing you know, worst case scenario, you may get your leg in there. And, you know, that could be a leg, could be an arm, could be anything. So always stay away from the back of the boat. A lot of ladders are in the back of the boat, so you got to be very careful. Have good communication between the diver or the driver and the swimmer and say, hey, I'm coming around to the back to get up on the ladder. I also don't recommend swimming in the front of the boat just because there's not a good field of view if anybody's sitting in the driver's seat. Hopefully everybody's swimming, they're having a good time, but by chance if somebody's sitting in that driver's seat and they start going and you're in the front of the boat, worst case scenario, you're going underneath the boat right into this mode. Okay. So where I always tell everybody to swim, if you're going to jump out, jump off to the sides, either the port or starboard side, and I always tell communication. Hey, I'm jumping off or I'm going in. Let people know what you're doing. Okay? When you're jumping out in the water, whether it's a lake, river, or stream, I always, first time jump in feet first, only because you don't know how deep it is. So if you jumped in head first and you were in a foot of water, that's a bad case scenario. So I always recommend feet first. So that's swimming around the boat. Any questions on that, Ben?
No, I don't think so, but how old do you have to be able to drive a boat?
In order to operate a boat in the state of Indiana, you can be 15 years old as long as you take a boater education class and you have a state ID from the BMV. Anybody under the age of 14 or 15, they can operate a boat with a small motor, also known as a 9.9 or smaller. They can operate that with an ID or with parents in board. So in a big boat such as this, you have to be 15 years old or older. So when you get to be about 15, you can take a boater education class, which we as officers do educate kids in.
Okay, great. Continue on.
Now, besides boat safety, if you were ever part of a water rescue, maybe you see somebody that's having an emergency in the water, they're thrashing, they're screaming, help, help, help. What can you do? There's four things we always talk about: reach, throw, row, and go. Okay. So the first one's reach. Okay. you think outside the box, you see your buddy out there in the pond, maybe in the lake right next to your boat, and he's having problems. He's having problems swimming. He doesn't have his life jacket on. Okay, what can you use? Well, look around. What can you use? In this boat, we have a paddle. Okay, so if somebody's out there and they're having trouble swimming, you reach the paddle out, you grab them and you bring them to shore. Remain calm, think outside the box. You might have a stick close by. You might have just something that's longer than you to reach out and grab that individual. So that's the first part, is reach, throw. So again, think outside the box. What can you use to throw to them to make, is the throwable cushion. Okay? You can throw this, say they're out a good 10, 15 foot, and you can throw it to them. They could lay on top of it, and then they could actually kick themselves in, or at least stay there on top of the water until a rescue comes and helps. Okay? The other things I've seen used before are basketballs and beach balls. Okay? You can throw a beach ball out there that's full of air. They can actually grab onto it and maybe rescue themselves, or wait till somebody comes and rescue. So far you got reach, and then you got throw, and the third one is row. Okay? If you have a kayak or canoe, maybe even a boat, that you see somebody out there having trouble about 20 yards or whatever, you can actually get in that boat and maybe paddle out to them. Use your hands to paddle out to them. They can lay on top of the side of the kayak or canoe, hang on. Or a boat, you might be able to push out there for them to rescue themselves. And the last one is what we don't recommend, unless you're a rescue swimmer, is to go. And that go means you dive in there after. Okay. I'm going to recommend you, as young as you are, is to not go in after them, but to go get help. To make a phone call, to yell at somebody, to get the neighbors, to just try and find somebody to help you out. So if those first three things don't work, then look around, find the closest person available, and go and get them. Okay? So any questions about that?
None. You were
all right. So,
working in slow motion there. We just had bad reception, but it's all good. We know it's glitchy. You don't have to put it in the Q&A box. We know it gets glitchy sometimes. Carry on.
Okay. So that's the 4 steps: reach, throw, row, and go. Now, boating itself can be very, very fun, and it can be great, whether it's pleasure boating, whether you're canoeing or kayaking, but it's the responsibility of you, the person who's boating, but also the responsibility of the operator to know the laws, the rules, and the regulations, especially with life jackets. Before you get on a boat, whether it's your parents' boat, your uncle's, your aunt's, or whatever, I always recommend, hey, before you step on, do you have a life jacket that fits me? So it's your responsibility, but it's also the parent's responsibility. So remind them, hey, I need a life jacket just in case something does happen. They're called accidents, not because they do happen. It's because we don't know when they do happen. Okay, it's an accident. So very, 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 very important that you take the time and ask those questions. Hey, do you have life jackets? Do you have a throwable cushion? Do you have a throw bag? So the last thing I'm going to talk about are throw bags, and you'll see these around the county at certain retention ponds. I know here in Tippecanoe County, there's 4 or 5 retention ponds that have mailboxes. And those mailboxes aren't for mail for the ducks and the geese. Those mailboxes actually hold what we are calling a throw bag, or it's a bag of rope. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's a bag full of rope. Now, if you see somebody out there and they need rescued, all you do is hold on to one end. And that mailbox outside the pond around the edges is for anybody to use. Okay? But you see that bag of rope, you take one end and you hold on to one end. You take the other end and you just chuck it. Okay? That person might be out there 10, 15 yards, but on the end of this, there's a flotation, a piece of foam in there that'll keep it afloat. So if you see them out there, they're yelling and screaming, you take that bag of rope and you chuck it as hard as you can to them, and you go, yeah. And you get it out to them, they grab onto the rope, and you're able to pull them in. Okay. Some bag of ropes might have 20 yards, some bag of ropes might have 50 yards of rope inside. It just depends. And they might be smaller, might be larger, but that's what those are, the mailboxes around the pond. Okay, so that's kind of a big thing around in the area is the throwback. So that is my conclusion to boat safety. The most important thing is life jackets. As you can see, I've been talking with this life jacket on, and it hasn't bothered me. It doesn't bother me. We can patrol 8 to 12 hours on the lake wearing this thing. And half the time, if not all the time, we don't even know it's here. But it will be here for when you do fall in if something does occur. So, any questions?
Yeah. Are there ways to fall out, like different ways to fall out of a boat? Like, I don't know. I mean,
On
it seems
purpose?
obvious, but it's
Right.
sort of when you lose focus is when you fall out of a boat, right?
Yeah. So anytime you're boating, you should always pay attention. You know, whether there's waves or whether there's wind creating the waves, whether there's trees overhanging the river, the lakes, or the creeks, you need to pay attention. You just can't sit there and play on your iPad or your phone. You should always pay attention. And then while sitting in the boat, you should always either find a seat to sit on. Like this boat actually has a main seat, but there's a seat back there too. Plus there's 2 storage containers used as seats. You should be sitting in the boat. Now, to sit on the side with your leg hanging out, or even just sitting on the side with your feet on inside the boat, that's illegal, okay? Because if you hit the wave just the wrong way and you're sitting on the side, you could fall off, and next thing you know, all that water is pulled underneath the boat right into that bad black thing called the motor. Okay, so I always recommend find a seat, pay attention, and enjoy the ride, but you got to pay attention.
Good answer.
So do you patrol a lot of bodies of water here in Indiana?
We, in our district, we patrol Lake Freeman, Lake Schaefer, the 2 biggest ones that we have. Lake Waveland down in Montgomery County, then all the creeks, rivers, and streams that we have also in District 3. District 3 is actually Tippecanoe and surrounding counties. So you're talking quite a few bodies of water.
So can you actually get a ticket if you're on the water?
Depends what you're doing. So that's one of our educational things is enforcement. And people think, well, enforcement and education doesn't fit. Well, sometimes you have to educate by writing a warning, maybe a ticket. Worst case scenario where you might be writing a ticket and then take them to jail. So that could be an education thing. They're going to learn the hard way, possibly by going to jail if they do something totally drastic.
Someone asked, what is in the storage containers of boats? Is that only for life jackets, or do people store different things in those?
Nope. In our boats, we store anchors. We store extra lines, extra lights. We as river rescue people, we don't know whether we're going to be called. Even after, we'll say a rain like today is probably not going to be a whole lot. But if it was to rain 2 or 3 days in a row right now, our waterways would be so saturated after it got sucked up in the ground. But then once it gets sucked up, it's got to go somewhere. Usually it's in the waterways. So in our boats, we carry extra lights, extra ropes, anchors. Some people carry snacks and coolers and waters and stuff in that storage containers. So it just depends. I know there's pontoon boats that are 20 foot in length. This is only a 16-foot boat, but can you imagine another 4 more feet this way and maybe 2 more feet wide? They have a lot of storage containers, which they could keep a lot of life jackets, but they keep a lot of other things in there too.
We got a good question over on Facebook. Do you have to wear a life jacket if you're on a stand-up paddleboard?
Great question. Those paddle boards are like the newest, fastest Fandango thing. We always tell people, yes, you don't have to wear them, but they have to be on that board. You're using that board as transportation from point A to point B. So with that being said, it becomes a boat. It may not look like a boat. It just looks like a board on the water, but you're using it as transportation from point A to point B. So a life jacket is required for each individual person. Again, you don't have to wear it, but we as officers, and I will recommend this, you should wear it. Because you're standing up, say you're Lake Freeman, Lake Schaefer, and it might be a nice, calm Saturday morning, but what's saying a jet ski or a big lake boat doesn't come back or come by and create a lot of wave and you're in the drink. So I recommend you should wear them on those paddle boards.
Is there a limit as to how many people can be in a boat?
There is a limit. So on the back of the boat, it usually says, here where ours is stamp. Yeah, it's on this side. It's on this side, and it will actually say the amount of people and or weight. So each individual person, that's actually in the front too, as you can see way up there. Can you get there? It'll say weight and or person. So each boat is rated for a certain amount or weight.
We got a question about your inflatable life jacket that you're wearing right now. Is it possible for that life jacket to deflate?
To deflate. Actually, I believe it is. It doesn't keep air all the time. Say if you're out there in the water for whatever reason, it might be hours. There is a tube inside also. It actually pops out with it, and it's right here on the side. If you feel that you're losing air, you just blow in the tube, and it puts more air into your life jacket. So even if, say, the Titanic, they were out there for hours and hours floating around, they didn't have these inflatables. But if you were out there now floating for hours and hours, you would have to reinflate, not all the way, but you'd have to blow in some air every once in a while. This one's also equipped with a whistle. So if it pops out, the air tube pops out this way, the whistle pops out this way. So if it's at night and it's got reflection or reflectors also, if it's at night and we're trying to rescue somebody, they got one of these on, we'll see the reflective of the light, but then they have a whistle too. You can actually blow your whistle blast.
Is there a time limit as to when you should get off the water?
There is no time limit, unfortunately, but there is a time limit for speeding on the water. Now, anytime throughout the day, if you're on Lake Freeman, Lake Schaefer, one of the bigger lakes, you can go unlimited speed as fast as you want, just as long as you're not dangerous. But as soon as dusk comes, you have to go down to 10 miles an hour. And 10 miles an hour in a John boat is pretty slow. But if you think about it in a lake boat that you're normally going to 20 to 30 mile an hour, you have to bring that down to 10 miles an hour. You're almost to the point of where you're pushing water, and it seems like you're going really slow, but 10 miles an hour is pretty much the law, all the way from dusk and then to dawn. So as soon as dawn, as soon as the sun rises, and you can go as fast as you want, as long as you're not dangerous about it.
Do you have to have lights or anything?
At night, as soon as the dawn dusk, you have to have a front light as well as a back light. And the front light has a red and green, and each one depicts on which side of the boat it is on. So that's kind of your navigational light. The back light is your stern light. That's always a white light. It has to be seen 360 degrees by everybody, and it always has to be on if you're sitting. If you're in the boat and it's moving, all the lights have to be on.
When do most accidents happen? During the day or during the night?
I think historically, I can tell you in our district that I've been a part of, all the accidents, not that I've been a part of the accidents, but investigating the accidents, part of our job. It's usually in between, I would say, in between 3 and 9, almost right before dusk. People get a little more crazy. They get out and about and they're doing some crazy things, but then dusk hits at nighttime. It's darker, people are only looking for a red and green light, maybe a little white light, and that's it. So I'd say, in between that time frame, 3 to 9.
Do life jackets have to be a certain color?
They don't. Life jackets can be any color. We know there's guys out on the big lakes that actually have life jackets that match the color of their boat. So it doesn't really matter. I know when we have river rescue guys, there's some that actually have yellow ones. We have red ones. The instructors have different color ones, and that only depicts they're an instructor. But we all do the same job. It just depends on who's the instructor. If we have any questions. But besides the color of the life jacket.
What's your favorite kind of boat?
What's my favorite kind of boat? I enjoy the John boat only because we can get on the river. I can actually take this boat up on Lake Freeman, Lake Schaefer, the bigger lakes too. But it also goes on the river. So I really enjoy a good John boat.
Are you seeing more people out or less people out with all the stay-at-home or coronavirus stuff?
We're seeing more people out. We've been patrolling a lot of the state parks because they're still open. And a lot of places were closed for a long time, but people wanted to come outside and do some exercising or walking their dogs, maybe looking for some mushrooms. I know I can say this in my 17 years, and as long as the Prophetstown State Park has been open, this last month has probably been the busiest I've ever seen this place. Really? So I think we're seeing a lot more people utilize the state properties than what they have in the past.
Okay. If you were to give advice on how to prevent a boating accident, what would you say? I know that's general, but.
No, generally that's the biggest, the biggest thing I always tell everybody, most accidents occur because the person that's operating the boat's not paying attention. They're either looking around, they're talking to the people in the boat, they might be on their phone. There's nothing that says you can't text and drive a boat, but maybe there should be, so pay attention. The operator of the boat's the one who controls where it goes, where it's stern, where it turns, where it goes fast or slow. So if the operator's paying attention, he can control those factors. But if they're not paying attention, that's that's pretty much when accidents happen.
Do adults have to pass that boater safety test, or is that just for people under a certain age?
It's mostly for people under 15 years old if they want to operate the boat. We do have some adults that do take it, but it just depends. It is a general information test. So I remember teaching the course to a group of people that have a sailing club, and those individuals had, you know, they're probably 60, 70 years old, and they had more boating experience than I've ever had in my entire life, but they actually learned something too. But I also learned from them some of the knots that we talked about throughout the boating class. They actually showed me better knots to use while I'm on patrol. So it actually worked for both of us. But I do recommend that everybody should take it. And it's not just for how to operate a boat. It's all about boat safety too. You know, our biggest thing is Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. It's jumping in and out, so we'll kind of do a little wrap up here.
So could we have time for one more question?
Sure, go ahead.
So if you were broke down, if your boat broke down, what do you suggest for people to do?
You know, what we suggest on the lakes that we have, Lake Freeman, Lake Schaefer, you know, try and find somebody who's going by, you know, wave your arms. Usually the boaters on the big lakes, they're all kind of like big family almost, to a point where if you need help, they're going to come help you out, whether you've got a fire on the boat, worst case scenario, or whether your boat motor just died, or, you know, it just so happened you didn't look at the gas can or the gas gauge. So people run out of gas on the lake quite a bit. So wave your arms, wave somebody over. If by chance we're out there patrolling, we see you, you're waving your arms at us. You might be a wave to us, but if you wave your arms at us, then we'll come over and we'll talk with you and see what's going on. You know, you may need a tow, and if we got nothing going on, we might be able to tow you into shore. We're not going to tow you across the lake. You know, it might be a 35, 45-minute drive across the lake. We're not going to do that. But if we can get you to the closest marina, maybe get you the gas that you need, or maybe there's a boat problem, we can get you transportation to and from. We'll help you out the best we can. But biggest thing is, if something breaks down, wave, and somebody will come probably help you out.
Awesome. We will leave it there, and I'll go on to the question that we've been asking every one of our expert guests, and that is, what is one thing that you wish everyone in the world knew about boating and boating safety?
I think the biggest thing I wish everybody knew, or actually everybody did, was wear a life jacket. It would make, you know, one of the worst case scenarios we have to deal with is drowning. You know, whether you're the scuba diver that goes in after them, or whether you're the boat operator running the sonar unit, or you're this boat operator and you've got a sonar person in the boat with you. You know, everybody's a part of it, and that is probably one of the worst parts of our job. So if I don't know of anybody that's have drowned because they are wearing life jackets. So if I had anything to do and I could suggest to anybody, wear a life jacket and pay attention. That's a big thing. Pay attention.
Good.
Awesome. Well, that was all very good information. It's perfectly timed information with more people on the water right now, and we're kind of headed into summer. I think the students are out. Their last day is tomorrow. So perfectly timed information for boating safety. For folks who are going to be on the water this summer, please wear a life jacket, be safe, pay attention, all of that. We'd like to thank Officer Tholen for his time. Thank you very much, Matt. That was very good. Everyone at home, give Matt the silent claps too. He won't be able to hear you, but he'll know that you're clapping for him.
I know you're doing it. Yeah.
This is the last of our virtual Conservation Live series for the spring. So for those of us who joined us for all 8 of them, thank you for being here. It has been a blast reading your questions and getting these specialists in front of you. These people know what they're talking about. They're the smartest people we know. So we're so thankful that they joined us, and we're very, very thankful that you all joined us. We may do something similar to this in the fall again. So stay tuned, and your teachers will point you in our direction. But for now, thank you very much. Have a good summer. Have a safe summer, and try to get outside and learn something.
I want to add something to that also. Make sure you check on our website and for maybe volunteer opportunities or things that are coming up that you would like to attend. Ben and I both usually attend those things. So if you attend, make sure you seek us out, say hello, and because we'd love to see you. So sorry we could do it outdoors, but this actually turned out really well. So have a great summer, everybody.
All right, see you guys. Thanks again, Matt.
Bye. Thanks, Matt.
Yep, thank you.
All right, bye now.